Good morning. Today I'm going to talk to you about blessings. When it comes to blessings, we could say blessed, which deals with what we receive, as in Matthew 5, starting in verse 3. Matthew 5, starting in verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. And so on. The word blessings can deal with receiving the blessing or speaking the blessing. Today, I'm going to talk about speaking blessings. There are power in our words. Our words become self-fulfilling prophecies. We must be very careful of what we think and extremely careful of what we say. Our words have tremendous power. Mark 11:23. Mark 11:23. I tell you the truth, if anyone says to this mountain, go, throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen, it will be done for him. If we mean to or not, we give life to what we are saying, either good or bad. Today I will talk to you about how this can be applied to our lives, our children's lives, employees' lives, and others that we meet in our lives. In other words, everyone. Want to see a miracle? Take a seed and put it under several inches of dirt. Give it enough water, light, and fertilizer. A mountain will be moved. It doesn't matter that ground is a zillion times the weight of that seed. The seed will push back. Every spring, I plant tiny hopes in overturned soil. And every spring, my hopes press against impossible odds and blooms. Never underestimate the power of a seed. Those who are peacemakers will plant seeds and reap the harvest of goodness. Words are similar to seeds. By speaking them out loud, they are planted in our subconscious, and they take on a life of their own. They take root, grow, and produce fruit of the same kind. If we speak positive words, our lives will move in that direction. In the same way, negative words will produce poor results. We will reap exactly what we have sown. Galatians 6:7. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. As soon as you speak words you give birth to them. It works with good or bad, with positive or negative. I heard someone say, let the weak say, I'm strong. Let the oppressed say, I'm free. Let the sick say, I'm healed. This would mean if you feel weak or oppressed or sick, we can, in most cases, change the situation by saying positive words. We must be very careful of what we say in times of adversity, in times of hardship. When things aren't going our way, how we respond to adversities of life and what we say in the midst of difficulties will have a great impact on how long we stay in those situations. It's not the hardship that keep us down, but how we handle them. Our human nature in times of difficulties want to complain and tell everyone about how bad life is treating us. but those conversations are self-defeating. To get through difficult times faster and get better results, we must learn to speak positively as possible. If you want to change the world, start by changing your words. When times get tough, don't give in to complaining and murmuring. If you speak the right words and keep a good attitude, God will bring you out of that situation. You can experience a new sense of joy in your home if you just stop talking about the negative things in your life and beginning talking about God's words. I get up every morning and I say Psalms 118, verse 24. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. My day starts off on a positive note, aligning my thoughts with God's. Set the tone for the entire day when you get out of bed. We need to speak life-changing words over our children every day. As parents, we profoundly influence the direction of our children's lives by the words we say to them. With our words, we have the ability to mold and shape the future of anyone we have influence over. It is very important that we speak good things into their lives. That does not mean we will never disagree with them, or you will not have to confront and correct them. But in the general tone of our conversations with them, our words to them, and your words about them should be a positive blessing. A mother or father that's always nagging their teenage son or daughter, saying, "You're so lazy. You're never going to amount to anything. If you don't shape up, you aren't going to get into college. You're just going to get into trouble." Those kind of words will destroy a person quicker than you can imagine. You cannot speak negatively about a person on one hand and turn around and expect that person to be blessed. James 3, 9 and 10. James 3, 9 and 10. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth comes praise and cursing. My brothers, this should not be. If you want your sons or daughters to be productive and successful, then you need to say words of life over your children rather than words of doom and despair. In the Old Testament, the people understood the power of the blessing. As the family patriarch came close to death, the oldest son came next to his father, and the father would lay his hands on the son's head and speak loving, faith-filled words over them about their future. These words were known as the blessing. The family knew that these were more than Dad's dying wishes. These words carried spiritual authority and had the ability to bring success and health into their future. One of the most biblical recordings dealing with this is Jacob and Esau in Genesis 27, 1 through 40. The two sons of Isaac. Jacob wanted the blessing, not just any blessing, but the blessing that belonged to the firstborn son in the family. Isaac was old, near death, and close to being blind. One day he called his son Esau and said, "Esau, go kill some game and prepare a meal for me, and I will give you the blessing that belongs to the firstborn son." But Isaac's wife Rachel overheard this conversation. Rachel loved Jacob more than she loved Esau, so she told Jacob to put on Esau's clothes in an attempt to trick Isaac into giving him the blessing. Then she prepared one of Isaac's favorite meals. While Esau was out in the field hunting, she said to Jacob, "Go to your father, give him this food, and he will give you the blessing that really belongs to your brother." Jacob was aware of the seriousness of this action. He said, "But mother, what happens if he finds out I'm lying and he curses me instead of blessing me? I will be cursed for the rest of my life." Jacob understood he was risking his entire future on this gamble. He knew the words that his father spoke over him would impact his future for either good or evil the rest of his life. Whether we realize it or not, our words are affecting our children's future either for good or evil. Our words have the same kind of power that Isaac's words had. We need to speak loving words of approval and acceptance, words that encourage, inspire, and motivate our children to reach for new heights. When we do that, we are speaking blessings into their lives. When we speak negative words, which will cause them to lose the sense of value that God has placed in them, as parents, we have the responsibility before God and society to train our children, to discipline them when they disobey, and lovingly correcting them when they make wrong choices. If you continually speak words that discourage and dishearten, before long you have destroyed your child's self-image. And with your negative words, you will open the door, allowing the enemy to bring all kinds of insecurity and inferiorities into your child's life. There are millions of adults today that are still suffering as a result of negative words their parents and others spoke to them as children. Remember that if you make a mistake of always speaking negative words over your children, you are cursing their future, and God will hold you responsible for destroying their future. In the movie Spider-Man, Peter Parker's uncle said, "With great power comes great responsibility." Another way to say this is, with authority comes responsibility. You have the spiritual authority over your children to make sure they feel loved, accepted, and approved. You have the responsibility to bless your children. What are you passing down to the next generation? It's not good enough to think it. You must speak it. A blessing is not a blessing until it's spoken. Your children need to hear the words like, "I love you," "I believe in you," "I think you're great." They need to hear your approval. They need to feel your love. They need your blessing. I'm not positive on this, but I know Christine is a very good mother. I think every night when she puts Stephen and Sarah to bed, she will pray with them, and right before she leaves, she says, "Kids, let me remind you of who you are." And she will go through a list of superheroes. "You are my Spider-Man. You are my Power Ranger. You are my Buzz Lightyear. You are my Superman and my Supergirl." What she's doing is giving them fuel for their internal dialogue. Then she goes through the same routine when she puts Scott to bed. But instead of using superheroes, she uses electrical terms. Like "you are my voltage" and "you are my amperage." If you don't tell your children who you are, someone else will. Jacob stood before his nearly blind father Isaac, pretending to be his brother Esau. Although Isaac's eyesight was bad, his intellect was not. He questioned, "Esau, is this really you?" "Yes, Father," Jacob lied. Isaac wasn't convinced, so he called his son closer to him. And when he smelled Esau's clothes that Jacob was wearing, he was finally convinced. And he then gave Jacob the blessing that was really meant for Esau. Shortly after Jacob left the room, Esau came in. "Dad, sit up. I got the meal I prepared for you." Now, Isaac was confused and said, "Who are you?" "Dad, I'm your son Esau, your firstborn son." At that point, Isaac began to shake violently. He realized he was lied to. He explained to Esau how his brother Jacob came in and tricked him out of his blessing. Now listen to this from the story. Esau began to cry with a loud voice, saying, "Father, can't you still give me the blessing that belongs to the firstborn?" And Isaac answered back something very powerful. He said, "No, the words already have gone forth, and I cannot take them back. I said Jacob will be blessed, and he will always be blessed." Do you see the power of our words? Do you see the power of speaking blessings over your children? Isaac said, "Once the words go forth, I cannot take them back." He gave Esau a blessing, but it was not as good as the one Jacob got. We must be very careful of what we allow to come out of our mouths. Next time you're tempted to talk down to someone or belittle them or degrade them, remember, you can never get those words back. Once you speak them, they take on a life of their own. We should never speak unkind or destructive words to anyone. Just because you are the boss over people does not give you the right to speak down to your employees. God is even going to hold you accountable for what you say to those individuals under your authority. He will judge you with a stricter standard. You should go out of your way to speak positive words that build and encourage. I would like to say a few words now about those in authority to show you that God is in control of everything, even with those who are in authority. God tells us that everyone in authority is there by God. In John 19:10 and 11. In John 19:10 and 11. "Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Don't you realize I have the power to either free you or to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above." In Romans 13:1. In Romans 13:1 and 2. "Everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, he who rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves." We also see here that we must submit to authorities. Likewise, those in authority should judge as Jesus would, not just by what they see and hear from others. In Isaiah 11:3. In Isaiah 11, starting in verse 3. "And he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, or decide what he hears with his ears. But with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked." In the same way, it is very important for a husband to understand that the words he speaks has power over his wife's life. You need to bless her with your words. Many women today are depressed and discouraged in their life because their husbands do not bless them with their words. One of the leading causes for emotional breakdown among married women is the fact that they do not feel valued. One of the main reasons for those emotional breakdowns is because husbands are holding back the words of approval women so desperately need. Some men may say, my wife knows I love her. I don't need to tell her. I told her 30 years ago when we got married. No, she needs to hear it again and again. Every single day, a husband should tell his wife that he loves her. I appreciate you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. The wife should do the same for her husband. Your relationship would improve if you simply start speaking loving, kind words, blessing your spouse instead of cursing him or her. A blessing is not a blessing until it's spoken. On a particular Oprah show, Oprah was completely taken off guard when a woman from her childhood made a surprise appearance. Clearly, it was an emotional moment for the Queen of Television, who explained through tears how this woman's kind words of long ago greatly impacted her life. As Oprah tells it, she was about 8 years old when this woman, whom she has never met, looked at her and said, "You are as cute as a speckled pup." Though Oprah really didn't quite know what she meant, she knew it was a compliment. And that single remark helped to empower an otherwise timid child to begin to believe in herself. The successful Oprah Winfrey stood on the stage of her enormous popular talk show with this lady, tears streaming down her face, as the emotional impact of 4 decades ago still holds meaning and causes a stirring in her soul. Kind words have power to inspire lives, yet I wonder how often people realize that they hold the key to impacting the lives of others by creating kindness. I have heard it said that everyone deserves to have a bad day once in a while. We need to give people room to have a bad day. If someone flies off the handle at you, instead of retaliating and giving them a piece of your mind, why not show some of God's grace and mercy? Give them kindness. Give them a word of encouragement. After all, you don't know what they're going through. That person may have a child in the hospital. His or her mate maybe just walked out on them. Maybe they're living hell on earth. If you return their harsh words with your harsh words, you could escalate the conflict, or your response could be the final straw that causes them to give up and sink into utter despair. Neither is pleasing to God. If you are placed in a situation where somebody does not treat you right, you have a golden opportunity to help heal a wounded heart. Keep in mind, hurting people often hurt other people as a result of their pain. If someone is rude and inconsiderate, you can almost be certain that they have some unresolved issue inside them. They have some major problem like anger, resentment, or some heartache that they're trying to cope and overcome. The last thing they need is for you to make matters worse by responding angrily. Evil is never overcome by more evil. If you mistreat people who are mistreating you, you're going to make matters worse, and how are you acting differently than the world? I have heard an amazing story about a set of twins. One of the twins had a serious heart condition and wasn't expected to live. A few days went by, and the baby's health continued to get worse. She was close to death. A hospital nurse asked if she could go against hospital policies and put the baby in the same incubator together rather than individual incubators. It was a big ordeal, but finally the doctor consented to allow the twins to be placed side by side together in the same incubator, just like they were in their mother's womb. Somehow, the healthy baby was able to reach over and put his arm around his little sick sister. Before long, and for no apparent reason, her health began to stabilize and heal. Her blood pressure came up to normal. Her temperature soon followed suit. Little by little, she got better and better. Today, they are both perfectly healthy children. This ended up being called the rescuing hug. Someone needs your hug today. Someone needs your love. Someone needs your kind words. You may not realize it, but there's healing in your hands. There's healing in your voice. We need to speak. Seek to be a blessing to other people. You say, I don't have the time. I'm so busy. How long does it take to give someone a compliment? How long does it take to tell your wife, I love you? How long does it take to tell your employee, you're doing a fine job? I appreciate you working so hard. It's not enough to think kind compliments. We need to express them. In conclusion, I would like to tell you a story I recently read about a middle-aged man who was struggling with chronic depression for many years. His counselor told him that he would need to be on antidepressant drugs for the rest of his life. He told the counselor that his father, a self-made head of a large corporation, repeatedly said to him, Son, when you inherit the family business, I expect you'll ruin it. These words struck more painfully each time he heard them. When his father died, the man felt driven to work unreasonably long hours to prove his dad's predictions wrong. The pressure to avoid failure that relentlessly gnawed at him was quieted only by alcohol. Soon a serious drinking problem developed. His wife threatened to leave him. Finally, he succumbed to ongoing depression for which he could find relief only in drugs. His life was devastated by the power of his father's tongue. With words, we can bless or curse others, encourage or discourage, hearten or dishearten. They can be powerful motivators or demotivators. Let's always use them as an instrument of healing and encouragement and never use them to hurt, demoralize, or destroy another. Thank you.